Hill Street Blues was not just a groundbreaking police series. It was a vivid portrait of complex individuals navigating a world full of crime and raw emotion in the 1980s. Behind its unforgettable roles, many talented actors departed under tragic circumstances, from unexpected accidents to devastating illnesses no one could have foreseen. Let us honor the stars who left a lasting impression on audiences and who remain forever a part of the Hill Street Blues legend. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Let's get started. Michael Conrad as Sergeant Phil Esterhaus. Michael Conrad was born on October 16, 1925, and was a veteran American actor. When he stepped into the role of Sergeant Phil Esterhaus in the legendary Hill Street Blues in 1981, he was 56 years old, a seasoned, world-weary man who brought a warm sense of authority to the character. With his iconic line, "Let's be careful out there," delivered at every morning roll call, Esterhaus earned Conrad 2 consecutive Emmy Awards for Outstanding Supporting Actor in 1981 and 1982. But behind the spotlight was a personal life full of turbulence. Michael went through 3 failed marriages, with his first 2 ending in less than 2 years. It wasn't until he married his 3rd wife, Seema Goldberg, that he found a sense of late-in-life peace. Yet that peace was overshadowed by a nightmare. Urethral cancer quietly began consuming his body in his final years. He kept the illness secret, continuing to show up on set each day, as if transforming into Esterhaus allowed him to forget the pain eating away at him from within. His battle with illness grew more intense. Even in his final scenes, he performed with a calm and rare dedication, leaving the crew unaware that he was standing at death's door. On November 22, 1983, while the 4th season of Hill Street Blues was still in production, Michael Conrad passed away at age 58, leaving his colleagues and fans stunned and heartbroken. Barbara Bosson as Faye Furillo. Barbara Bosson was born on November 1, 1939 in Pennsylvania, and when she took on the role of Faye Furillo in Hill Street Blues in 1981, she was 42 years old. Faye, the ex-wife of Captain Frank Furillo, was far from a stereotypical weak woman. She was a single mother, deeply emotional and complicated, constantly torn between love and resentment. That raw authenticity earned Bosson 5 prestigious Emmy nominations. However, her life behind the camera was less stable than her on-screen performances. Barbara was married to Hill Street Blues creator Steven Bochco from 1970. Their intertwined personal and professional lives became increasingly strained. When Bochco was fired after season 5 for refusing to cut the budget, Bosson also left the cast, appearing only in the first 3 episodes of season 6. Her career was often seen as tied to her husband's, a burden that grew heavier as their marriage began to falter. After nearly 3 decades together and raising 2 children, they divorced in 1997, leaving behind unresolved pain and regret. Barbara Bosson died on February 18, 2023 in Los Angeles at the age of 83. The cause was confirmed as natural, peaceful, like her quiet departure from the screen after delivering roles that defined a generation. Keel Martin as Detective J.D. LaRue. Keel Martin, born Keel Urban Meller on July 26, 1944, began playing Detective J.D. LaRue in Hill Street Blues when he was 37 years old. His character was a brilliant yet troubled cop, an alcoholic, reckless, full of schemes, constantly torn between talent and self-destruction. Martin embodied the role so convincingly that it felt like LaRue was simply a reflection of his own conflicting, charismatic, and ultimately tragic self. Keel Martin's real life mirrored the shadows of his character. He had 3 short-lived marriages, a tangled web of relationships, and a long struggle with alcoholism that repeatedly derailed his career. At one point, Hill Street Blues producers had to remove him from 4 episodes so he could attend rehab. Steven Bochco, the show's creator, even wrote a storyline about LaRue's alcoholism to confront Martin with his own demons. It wasn't until 1984 that he found sobriety and held on to it, albeit for only a few short years. Just when life seemed to stabilize, fate intervened cruelly. In 1990, while performing in the stage play Biloxi Blues, Keel experienced severe chest pain. The diagnosis was grim: lung cancer. Despite all efforts to fight it, the disease progressed quickly. He died just a few months later on December 28, 1990, at his home in Rancho Mirage, California, when he was 46 years old. Rene Enriquez as Lieutenant Ray Cayetano. Rene Enriquez, born on November 24, 1933, was an American actor of Nicaraguan descent who began portraying Lieutenant Ray Cayetano in Hill Street Blues in 1981 when he was 48 years old. Cayetano wasn't just a by-the-book officer. He represented a Hispanic man striving to earn respect in a police force rife with prejudice. But beyond the lights of the set, Rene lived a life of inner solitude and deep wounds. Though he appeared regularly and was beloved by fans, Enriquez often felt unappreciated by the very team he worked with. Fellow actor Daniel J. Travanti once shared that Rene was sad, unhappy, because they were not happy with him. When he was fired after season 6, Rene was devastated. In an industry that demanded charisma and clarity, his distinctive accent and subdued style were unfairly viewed as limitations. These contradictions made the Nicaraguan actor increasingly retreat inward, living privately and speaking little. In his final years, Rene kept a painful secret known only to a few close confidants. He had AIDS, an illness still heavily stigmatized at the time. His death certificate initially listed pancreatic cancer as the cause, but it was later revealed to be complications from AIDS. He passed away on March 23, 1990, when he was 56 years old, just months before co-star Keel Martin would also die of lung cancer. It was a year of sorrow for the Hill Street Blues family. 2 colleagues, 2 tragedies, but only one truth made public. James Sicking as Lieutenant Howard Hunter. James Barry Sicking stepped into the role of Lieutenant Howard Hunter in Hill Street Blues in 1981 when he was 47 years old. With his militaristic style, often so rigid it bordered on absurd, Hunter embodied an aging officer who lived by ironclad discipline, yet still revealed deeply human moments of vulnerability. He led the emergency action team with the severity of a drill sergeant, and few knew that Sicking had actually based the character on a real training sergeant he served with during the Korean War. For his performance, he earned an Emmy nomination in 1984, forever securing his place in the hearts of Hill Street Blues fans. In real life, however, James Sicking was a calm, idealistic man devoted to community. After the series ended, he went on to star in notable roles such as the kind-hearted father in Doogie Howser, M.D., and received a People's Choice Award for Brooklyn South. He and his second wife, cookbook author Florine Kaplan, were married since 1962, raising 2 children and later becoming grandparents to 4. What earned him even more admiration was his nearly 20-year commitment to reading books aloud to 3rd graders in public schools through the Book Pals program. In his later years, he faced the cruel decline of dementia, a condition that gradually erased the memories of a man who once remembered every script and every glance from his co-stars. He passed away on July 13, 2024, at his home in Los Angeles, at the age of 90. His passing marked the end of a generation of television actors who served with quiet, steadfast dedication. Torian Black as Detective Neil Washington. Torian Black, born on May 10, 1940, in Newark, New Jersey, was 41 years old when he portrayed Detective Neil Washington in Hill Street Blues in 1981. He was not just a sharp, courageous detective, but also a powerful voice for the Black Officers Coalition. With a composed demeanor and undeniable presence, his performance earned him an Emmy nomination in 1982, part of a year where the entire category was dominated by the Hill Street Blues cast. Off-screen, Taurian Black was quite different from his tough on-screen persona. A devout Christian, he believed that faith and action must go hand in hand. After divorcing in 1966 and becoming a single father to 2 sons, he went on to adopt, not 1, but 10 children. Even when he was initially denied the right to adopt because he was a single, unmarried man, he persevered in what he called his life's mission. His actions were so inspiring that President George H.W. Bush personally appointed him as the national spokesman for adoption in 1989. Television and film were part of his life, but for him, children without homes were the true stars. After Hill Street Blues ended, he moved to Atlanta to raise his children in a more peaceful environment. He distanced himself from Hollywood's noise to live out his values. Though he didn't take on many high-profile roles afterward, he remained active in theater and community projects, especially those that inspired young black youth. On July 21, 2022, Taurian Black passed away in Atlanta after a brief illness at the age of 82. He left behind 12 children, 18 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren, a vast family bound not by blood but by love. Pat Corley as Coroner Wally Nydorf. Pat Corley, born Cleo Pat Corley on June 1, 1930, in Dallas, Texas, began his role as Wally Nydorf, the dry-humored coroner, in Hill Street Blues in 1982 when he was 52 years old. Wally would appear whenever someone died, and with his deep, calming voice and experienced gaze, he brought a raw but humane tone to the most somber scenes. Before entering Hollywood, Corley was a teenage ballet dancer, a soldier entertaining troops in France, and a student at the American Theater Wing under the legendary Uta Hagen. He shared the stage with icons like Al Pacino, James Earl Jones, and Christopher Walken in Broadway and off-Broadway classics. Still, it was television that made him a household name, especially for his role as Phil, the lovable bar owner in Murphy Brown from 1988 to 1996. Corley's real life was quiet and grounded. He and his wife, actress Iris Carter, raised their only daughter, Troy, in a nurturing, art-filled home. When Iris passed away in 2005, Corley gradually faded from the spotlight. On September 11, 2006, after a long battle with heart failure, he passed away at Cedars-Sinai in Los Angeles at the age of 76. Dolph Sweet as Lieutenant Emil Schneider. Dolph Sweet, born Adolphus Gene Sweet on July 18, 1920 in New York, joined Hill Street Blues as Lieutenant Emil Schneider when he was 61 years old. He brought to life a hardened veteran officer who represented old-school policing within a force undergoing change. His performance stood out for its authenticity, sternness, and lived-in depth, qualities drawn from his own remarkable life. Before the spotlight, Sweet lived a story fit for the screen. A B-24 bomber pilot in World War II, he was shot down and held prisoner in Romania. It was in those freezing prison camps that he discovered his love for acting, staging plays with fellow POWs to retain their humanity amid war. After returning home, he earned a degree from Columbia University and taught at Barnard College before switching to acting in his 40s. His career blossomed in the 1970s, often cast as police officers in film and TV. His most iconic role came in Gimme a Break, 1981 to 1985, where he played the father figure Carl Kaniski, becoming a beloved face in American households. Tragedy struck in 1984 when he was diagnosed with stomach cancer following a failed surgery. Though the illness ravaged him, he continued filming Gimme a Break until the very end. The season 4 finale aired on May 11, 1985, the day of his funeral, and opened with an emotional eulogy from co-star Nell Carter. Just 3 days earlier, he had passed away at the age of 64 at Tarzana Hospital, survived by his second wife Iris Braun and son Jonathan. His ashes were scattered at sea, like a soldier finally returning to nature after a long, harrowing journey. Trinidad Silva as Jesus Martinez. Trinidad Silva was born on January 30th, 1950, in Mission, Texas. In 1981, he took on the role of Jesus Martinez in Hill Street Blues when he was just 31 years old. Silva portrayed a layered Martinez, the leader of the Los Diablos gang, who was at once dangerous and cold, yet occasionally thoughtful, intelligent, and even oddly likable. That duality made the character an underground icon in the series. Beyond Hill Street Blues, Silva gained traction in the 1980s with memorable supporting roles like the gangster Frog in Colors and Raoul, the quirky animal lover in UHF 1989, with Weird Al Yankovic. Behind the scenes, he led a simple life. He married Sofia Alvarez in 1983, and they had a young son together. A rising career, a growing family, and a bright future all lay ahead. Then tragedy struck. On July 31st, 1988, after attending church, the Silva family was driving home when a drunk driver ran a red light and slammed into their car in Whittier, California. Trinidad and his son, neither of whom wore seatbelts, were ejected from the vehicle. The boy miraculously survived with bruises. Trinidad, small in stature but intense in presence, was thrown over 100 feet before slamming into the pavement. He died instantly. He was only 38 years old. The driver, Douglas Robert Owens, was sentenced to 10 years in prison for manslaughter and DUI. Silva's sudden death forced the UHF production team to rewrite the script, as he hadn't completed filming. The film was later dedicated to his memory, a tribute to an actor at the peak of his career. The heartbreak of his passing had a lasting impact on Weird Al Yankovic, who has since refused all offers to promote alcohol for the rest of his life. Joe Santos as Larza. Joe Santos, born Joseph John Minieri Jr. on June 9, 1931, in Brooklyn, New York, joined Hill Street Blues in 1984 as Larza when he was 53 years old, a prime age for a seasoned actor. Larza was a figure from the criminal underworld, mysterious, cold, yet psychologically deep, leaving an impression with Joe Santos's brooding eyes and resonant voice. Joe's real life was even more intense than his role. Born on the very day his father passed away, he grew up in the working-class neighborhood of Red Hook and once played semi-pro football while juggling blue-collar jobs, from railroad laborer to cab driver. His lifelong friend Al Pacino helped launch his acting career, starting with a supporting role in The Panic in Needle Park, 1971. Though he came to Hollywood late, he quickly gained fame as Lieutenant Dennis Becker in The Rockford Files, the loyal friend of Detective Jim Rockford, a role that earned him an Emmy nomination in 1979. Behind the rugged exterior was a heart broken by loss. His beloved wife, Maria Montero, passed away in 1988 after 30 years of marriage, leaving Santos to live a quieter, more reserved life afterward. In his later years, Santos faded from the spotlight. He lived peacefully with a new partner, focused on writing scripts and spending time with his grandchildren. On March 16, 2016, he suffered a major heart attack and passed away 2 days later, on March 18th, in Santa Monica, California, at the age of 84. Larry D. Mann as Judge Lee Oberman. Larry D. Mann, born on December 18, 1922, in Toronto, Canada, took on the role of Judge Lee Oberman in Hill Street Blues when he was 61 years old, a calm, sharp, and resolute judge in a world of police chaos. Appearing from seasons 3 through 6, 1983 to 1986, Oberman stood as a symbol of pure justice amid layers of social unrest and political compromise. But Larry's real life wasn't as composed as the characters he portrayed. Before acting, he was a radio DJ in Toronto, struggled through odd jobs in media, and lived under the long shadow of his more famous brother, Paul Mann. It wasn't until his 30s that Larry landed his first TV role in Canada, and nearly another decade passed before he received notable film parts. His slow rise to recognition made him consider quitting many times, especially when friends soared to stardom while he voiced cartoon characters or puppeteered for children's shows. Marriage, however, remained his lifelong anchor. Larry married Gloria Kochberg in 1946 and stayed by her side for over 60 years until his passing. Despite raising 4 children on the unsteady income of an actor, he never left his family. That enduring love helped him survive his toughest career lows. In the 1980s, when he was cast as the boss in a successful Bell Canada ad campaign, his life finally stabilized. The campaign's unexpected success brought him both fame and reliable income in his final decades. Larry D. Mann died on January 6, 2014 in Los Angeles at the age of 91. He will forever be remembered as Yukon Cornelius during Christmas and as Judge Oberman, steadfast in the eye of courtroom storms. Yaphet Kotto as Calvin Matthias. Yaphet Frederick Kotto was born on November 15, 1939, in Harlem, New York. In 1985, when he was 46 years old, Kotto appeared in Hill Street Blues as Calvin Matthias, a complex character often involved in cases blending political tension, racial issues, and urban crime. His role brought a powerful emotional core and inner conflict into the gritty world of city policing. Kotto's early life was harsh. His parents divorced when he was young, and he was raised by his grandparents in the rough Bronx neighborhood. He faced discrimination due to both his race and religion. "I had to scream on stage so people knew I existed," he once said. That passion led him to Broadway, where he played Othello at age 19, and eventually caught Hollywood's eye as the villain Dr. Kananga in Live and Let Die, 1973, making him the first black actor to portray a primary antagonist in the James Bond franchise, yet fame did not bring lasting happiness. Kotto went through 3 marriages, 2 divorces, and had 6 children, many of whom spent years estranged due to his demanding career or personal conflicts. In his later years, he withdrew from acting, moved out of the U.S., and settled in the Philippines with his final wife, Tessie Sinahan. There he lived quietly, occasionally sparking controversy with his support of Donald Trump and sharing QAnon conspiracy theories on social media, actions that faded his public image. Yaphet Kotto passed away on March 15, 2021, in Manila due to heart complications, at the age of 81. His death was quietly announced on Facebook by Tessie. His estimated net worth was around $5 million, a modest sum for a career spanning nearly 50 years. Michael Lerner as Raleigh Simone. Michael Charles Lerner was born on June 22, 1941, in Brooklyn. In 1983, when he was 42 years old, he appeared in Hill Street Blues as Raleigh Simone, a cunning informant deeply embedded in the criminal underworld, with a complicated relationship with law enforcement. Though brief, the role showcased Lerner's skill for bringing menace and nuance to morally ambiguous characters. Famous for playing moguls, politicians, and shady executives, Michael Lerner's real life held its own share of disappointment. Despite being nominated for an Oscar for his role as Jack Lipnick in Barton Fink, 1991, he never quite broke into the A-list. Under pressure, he became increasingly reclusive, developed a habit of smoking Cuban cigars, and played poker to unwind. On screen, he portrayed power figures, but off-screen, he remained in the shadows. His brother, Ken Lerner, was also an actor, though the two rarely spoke publicly about each other. Michael Lerner died on April 8, 2023, at a hospital in Burbank, California, at the age of 81. The cause of death was complications from a brain seizure. His estimated net worth was $3 million at the time, accumulated through decades of supporting roles in film and TV. Morgan Woodward as John Renko. Thomas Morgan Woodward was born on September 16, 1925, in Fort Worth, Texas. In 1982, when he was 57 years old, he joined Hill Street Blues as John Renko, a minor but fierce character, embodying the raw, dangerous brand of brute force authority that became his signature. Woodward's life was one long battle, literally and figuratively. A combat pilot in both World War II and the Korean War, he survived war zones before entering Hollywood, where he once again played the soldier, this time on screen. But his acting career wasn't easy. Often typecast as cowboys, criminals, or stern officers, he wrestled with the limits Hollywood imposed. This caused deep internal strain, especially since he once dreamed of singing opera at the Metropolitan. His one marriage, to Enid Ann Loftus, lasted nearly 70 years, but faced many storms, particularly when work consumed him and age brought bouts of mild depression. Their only child once said his father played the tough guy off-screen as much as on. In his final years, Woodward split time between his Paso Robles ranch and his historic Hollywood Hills home, spending time restoring vintage aircraft, his second great love after acting. Morgan Woodward passed away on February 22, 2019, at his home in California, at the age of 93. The cause was cancer, a disease he quietly battled for years. His estimated net worth was $5 million, largely earned from decades in television and land stewardship. Andy Romano as Deputy Chief Warren Briscoe. Andy Romano, born Andrew Romasanta on April 16, 1936 in the United States, joined Hill Street Blues in 1982 when he was 46 years old, portraying Deputy Chief Warren Briscoe, a classic authority figure known for his strict, powerful demeanor. Briscoe's cold and steely presence left a lasting impression, thanks to Romano's restrained yet effective acting style. After the Hill Street Blues era faded, Romano faced a difficult chapter in his career. Lead roles became rare, replaced by a string of supporting parts, guest appearances, and occasional absences from the screen. Throughout the 1970s and 1980s, he struggled through one-off television episodes like NYPD Blue, clinging to his passion for acting as his fame slowly faded. In the late 1980s, he found new opportunities with small roles in Major League, 1989, Under Siege, 1992, and Eraser, 1996. He retired in the late 1990s and moved to the Olympic Peninsula in Washington state. Sadly, Andy Romano passed away of natural causes on September 14, 2022, at the age of 86. With an estimated net worth of around $1 million, earned primarily from acting and real estate investments, Romano left behind the legacy of a reliable character actor who always delivered. Renee Santoni as Danny Santana. Renee Santoni, born Reynaldo Santoni on April 21, 1938, in the Bronx, New York, portrayed Danny Santana in Season 4 of Hill Street Blues in 1984 when he was 46 years old. Santana was a dedicated police officer who appeared in several episodes, portrayed with quiet strength and compassion. Though a supporting role, Santoni gave it a profound human dimension. His personal life was filled with quiet chapters. He was married twice, first to Lisa James, then to Ray Ann Gorman, and had 2 sons, including Nick Santoni. Beyond acting, he once dreamed of becoming a sports journalist and even played professional baseball for a short time. He was also a playwright, with his 1962 work Raisin Hell in the Sun showcasing the multifaceted talent of an artist who loved the craft but shunned the spotlight. Renee Santoni passed away on August 1, 2020 in Los Angeles, California, at the age of 82, after a prolonged battle with throat and lung cancer. His funeral was held privately, per his family's wishes. Charles Levin, as Eddie Gregg. Charles Herbert Levin was born on March 12, 1949, in Chicago, Illinois. He became best known for playing Eddie Gregg in Season 2 of Hill Street Blues in 1982, when he was 33 years old. His character, a petty criminal turned police informant, was both sympathetic and reflective of the moral complexity of street life. But behind the screen was a tragic real-life story. Levin was married to actress Catherine DeHatre, with whom he had 3 children, Ben, Jesse, and Kate. In late 2007, tragedy struck when Catherine died in a car accident, a loss that left a deep wound in Levin's heart. He gradually stepped away from acting, officially retiring in 1998 and moving to the quiet town of Grants Pass, Oregon. On July 8, 2019, Levin's son reported him missing. He had reportedly disappeared on June 28 while preparing to move to a new home. His car was found on July 12 on a remote mountain road in Selma, Oregon, with the body of his beloved dog Boo Bear inside. The next day, Levin's body was discovered at the bottom of a 30-foot embankment. Authorities concluded that he died while trying to seek help after his car got stuck. Charles Levin was 70 years old when he died. Though not a major star, he was a testament to the quiet, hard-working actor whose life ended with a story that silenced anyone who heard it. Paul Mace as Pagano. Paul Nicholas Mace was born on April 4, 1950, in New York City. At 31 years old, he appeared in Season 1 of Hill Street Blues, 1981, as Pagano, a minor character who helped illustrate the chaos and complexity of the show's criminal world. Though his screen time was brief, Mace's gritty, raw energy left a mark. Born into an artistic environment, Mace began acting in the early 1970s, appearing in films such as The Panic in Needle Park, 1971, The Lords of Flatbush, 1974, and Paradise Alley, 1978. He was known for embodying streetwise, marginalized characters with authenticity and edge. Despite working with big names, his career never propelled him into stardom. Tragedy struck on August 12, 1983. Paul Mace died in a motorcycle accident in Los Angeles at just 33 years old, only 2 years after his appearance in Hill Street Blues. His death was made even more haunting by the fact that his ex-wife, actress Judy Ann Jordan, also died in a car crash that same year. Together, their deaths served as a chilling reminder of the fragility of Hollywood dreams. Arnold Johnson as Drunk. Arnold Herbert Johnson was born on November 15, 1921, in New York. When he appeared in Season 2 of Hill Street Blues in 1982 as a homeless drunk at age 61, it was a small but haunting role. His character reflected the grim realities of 1980s urban America, addiction, homelessness, and the isolation of the elderly. Johnson had previously risen to fame with his lead role in Putney Swope, 1969, a satirical black-and-white film about race and advertising, directed by Robert Downey Sr. He later earned acclaim with his portrayal of Cullen Shaft, 1971, a loyal friend to Detective John Shaft, and again as the wise grandfather Thomas in Menace the Second Society, 1993. Throughout his career, Johnson was often cast in roles with deep emotional resonance, whether as a dignified husband in Family Matters or a warm-hearted uncle in The Jeffersons. Off-screen, Johnson's life was equally understated. He married Betty Helene Heater in 1984 when he was in his early 60s. Though the couple had no children, they remained together for 16 years until his death. Arnold Johnson died from kidney failure on April 10, 2000 in Los Angeles at the age of 78. His passing was quiet, just like the life he led, free of scandal, full of dedication, and always true to his craft. Troy Kirby Jr. as Dudley Hicks. Troy Kirby Jr. was born on March 8, 1957, in Houston, Texas. When he was 25 years old, he appeared in Season 2 of Hill Street Blues, 1982, as Dudley Hicks, a supporting character representing the everyday civilian, helping to portray the complex interactions between the community and law enforcement in a tense urban setting. Curvey's career never reached Hollywood stardom, but he left his own mark with supporting roles in notable films like Colors, 1988, Lock Up, 1989, and Vampire in Brooklyn, 1995. Though often seen only briefly, he brought life to each role, whether portraying emotionally conflicted men or psychologically layered villains. Tragically, on January 29, 2009, Troy Curvey Jr. passed away in his hometown of Houston at the age of 51. The cause of death was never publicly disclosed, leaving behind a mysterious silence, much like the man and the career he quietly carved out. Hill Street Blues remains a towering landmark in television history, a show where gifted actors left behind unforgettable legacies. Which character moved you most? What memory from the series stays with you to this day? Share your thoughts with us and help keep the spirit of Hill Street Blues alive.